This time last season, Pompey were in the relegation zone. But the Blue Army are flying high right now with 8 points from 5 games. Now, as a struggling Sheffield Wednesday visit the fortress, can Pompey extend their unbeaten run? Wherever you're watching in the world, stay with us for the latest news, full build-up and analysis before that kickoff time at 3 p.m. British summertime here on Pompey Plus. Hello, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us on Pompey Plus as we return to PO4 for match day number 6. My name is George Wedlake, and it's a pleasure to be with you wherever you're watching this afternoon. A quick reminder though, if you're watching this on social media, your coverage ends in 45 minutes time. So if you want to watch or listen to the game with us this afternoon, and remember, coverage availability does depend on your region, get yourself over to Pompey Plus, sign up for a match pass, and alongside me for this afternoon, Mark Kelly and Paul Hardiman. Good afternoon, guys.
George, how are you?
Good afternoon, George.
Very well, thank you. So, Mark, a huge occasion last week, obviously. The South Coast Derby, it doesn't come much bigger than that, but Pompey really holding their own against what was essentially a former Premier League side.
Yeah, absolutely. I think anybody that saw the first 45 minutes. Pompey kind of dominated, really, had lots of chances, lots of opportunities in that first half. Second half, obviously, Southampton had to have some form of reply at home and got a little bit cagier, but no, listen, I think well deserved the point, and I think a lot of us walking away from it, especially opportunities, chances in the first half, probably thought they could have come away with all three, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm not being biased here, but when I say about that first half, Pompey were quite clearly the better side. In the second, they stood strong, but in that first half in particular, there were opportunities where we maybe could have nicked it.
Yeah, definitely, and I think that if you ask any Pompey fan before the game, would they take a 0-0 draw up at St Mary's? I think the answer would have been yes, but, and it is a big but, when you do play like that in the first half, then you do think like, well, we could have won it. And, the one thing that was going through my head was like, the double substitution of Schmidt and Ogilvie, it does disrupt the team. Players do start to think a little bit more about protecting the keeper a little bit, it's a big game for him as well. So, I thought they'd done absolutely brilliant. And, when you see the result, you're proud of that result, and when they come back here, we'll beat them here and we'll take 4 points off them, we'll be happy.
Exactly that. And the back four, rightly so, getting a lot of the plaudits as well from last week. But Regan Poole is topping the championship clearances table this season so far. Conor Shaughnessy's not far behind him, but that's improvement we've seen at the back, and the difference it makes just having a centre-back pairing when we went for about 900 last season.
Listen, it
makes all the difference.
Exactly, 100%, and it was all the talk of last season, wasn't it? We're saying about those pairings having to change all the time. You can see the two settling in, but it wasn't. Do you know what it was? I think it was the blocks, the shots. They were throwing bodies in the line. They were standing up strong on the edge of the box. It was proper old defending, Hardy, I'd call it. Proper old defending, which we haven't seen for a good while. And they really did deserve all the plaudits last week because clearances. I think Regan threw his body in front of about 3 or 4. Coming in, and as I said, that's kind of old-fashioned defending that we'd love. That Paul used to deliver every week here. That was the way he used to play. But it's just lovely to see that those pairings standing strong, and it gives you the biggest platform you can jump from. And
do you think that competition they have now at centre back with Josh Knight coming in in the summer, that's kind of boosted him in some way?
Yeah, I think we talked about this in the Preston game about new players coming in. What does that bring to the squad? Brings competition, and last year we had to wait almost until Christmas for those players to come in. But the club's done. I've got to say the club's done really, really well on recruitment. And you look at it. After 5 games last season, we've conceded 11 goals last year, 3 this season.
Yeah,
that's a massive difference. And I talked about it in the Preston game where we're saying like they're nice and compact as a group. Now, points, you'd much rather have 8 points and only 4 goals on the table. I know that for certain. And position being 9th there. So 2 wins, 2 draws and 1 loss. You'll take that for sure. But the big thing for me is now can we add to that? With the defenders pushing the midfielders on a little bit, the midfielders getting forward more and getting one of the central two, Dazal or Swift as it has been, into the box to maybe score goals. We've seen Swift hit the bar, the other week. We saw Dazal hit the bar the other week. It's coming. It's coming. Those goals have come. You know, Murphy's crosses into the box are fantastic. Sekicek's down the other side now, and hey, Kels, we know Connor. We know he's going to bring goals to the table.
Yeah, but no team in the Championship at this moment in time has more clean sheets than Pompey as well. So again, defensively sound, I think it's fair to say.
Definitely, and you know, it's as an ex-defender, you take your pride on clean sheets, and I know goalkeepers get the plaudits for it, but you know, there'll be plenty of times when you'd be thinking like, do you know what? We keep a clean sheet, we've only got to score one, and I've said that before, you know. So, and we're doing that well. So let's see that continue.
So Mark, let's have a look at the Championship table then. This time last season, Pompey were in the relegation zone. I know it's early days, but being a top 10 side or even top half side for as long as possible can only boost confidence, can't it?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, it's about that consistency. Can you get some consistency? It's happening home and away. Obviously, we had that brilliant home form last year, but away we couldn't really get anything going. So now we're getting a nice balance. There just seems to be balance about it, George, I think. That's why we're getting a little bit more consistency, and we see where we are in the table at this moment in time. And as I said, if you take that last week, you know, we had opportunities to score goals last week. If we would have scored, you know, we'd be in a really, really fine position at this moment. But again, just consistency and where we are, I think the manager and the staff will be happy with that start.
But we can see today's opponents, Sheffield Wednesday, second from bottom there, having a lot of issues off the pitch. It's never nice to see that. It doesn't matter what team, but this could be a factor to their form so far this season, couldn't it?
Yeah, massively. Look, Mark and myself have both been here when it's happened, you know, like where staff and players aren't getting paid. You know, you're losing members of staff, friends that you've had for years, you know, are being released from the club for one reason or another, and staff are leaving. It's not a nice situation for the club, let alone what's going on the pitch. You know, Mr. Chansiri is probably like, you know, the most hated man in Sheffield at the moment. I just hope it gets sorted. That is a massive club. I've been lucky enough to play there a few times at Sheffield Wednesday when they were in the, you know, played against Mark Chamberlain actually when they were in the first division there. Yeah. You know, so there's a lot of things going on there. You know, they've got a double, and I don't understand this, a double transfer embargo. So not, you know, just a transfer embargo, a double one. The only player they signed is Harry Amas from Man United. Now, the only reason they've been able to sign him is because Man United have been good enough to pay his wages and let him go there on loan. So
it's nice to see that kind of thing, isn't it?
Yeah, I think
clubs
it's
coming
brilliant.
Together like that.
Yeah, and Premier League clubs should do that a little bit more, I feel. You know, especially with a young lad who's looking for game experience. Yeah, it's a great experience for him. You know, but for me, you know, fan protests, things going on behind the scenes. The one shining light for me was I heard Barry Bannon speaking on Talk Sport the other week, just before the seasons. I've got to say, the player himself is very, very good on the pitch. But as a representative of that club at this moment in time, he was absolutely fantastic. The way he spoke about how he felt for the club, how he felt for the supporters, you know, how he felt for his teammates. And, you know, he's not just saying it, he's delivering it on the pitch as well. So credit to him.
Yeah. 1 point only for Sheffield Wednesday so far. They picked that up against newly promoted Wrexham. 4 defeats so far: Leicester, Stoke, Swansea and Bristol City. We also saw on Tuesday night they're now out of the cup as well, losing to Grimsby 1-0. Could a cup run at this stage have boosted their confidence maybe, or could they do without it given the problems that they're having?
It's a good question. You know, I think that sometimes a cup run is good because you're stuck, you know, obviously if you win, you're through to the next round, so it breeds confidence. But also it can be a distraction, you know, like they played against Grimsby. Let's be honest, they should have beaten Grimsby. However, they've made 10 changes to the team that night. So the managers tried to be a little bit fair in giving other lads a chance, an opportunity, young lads. It didn't work out for him, and they're out of that cup now. He can now focus on it. The other thing about it is that I've read that he's trying to bring in an old mate of mine, Peter Shuttleworth, who's going in probably as a coach there. So he needs to add to his team. That's probably not a transfer embargo, but he needs support. And you know, that cup run would have done them some good in the short period, but long termly, they need their fit players out there.
So, Mark, back to Pompey. We saw last season, you remember that victory over Leeds? A couple of days later, they then went and lost to Plymouth.
Yep.
Is there a risk of being too complacent against these sides that out of form and low on confidence? And does it suit Pompey being the underdogs more so than being the favourites for a game?
Well, listen, I think the fact of the matter is you can't take any game. They're professional footballers. There's 22 professional footballers out there, and they're all going to come to compete and do their jobs. And Sheffield Wednesday, they haven't had a good run, but if you look at who's below them, Sheffield United, would we put money on them being anywhere near it? No. So form is form. You come into a new game, you go through a different way on it, and no, you can't take anything with complacency. This is professional sport, George. You have to take every game as it comes, and you have to have the right mindset to go and win that game. And Pompey absolutely need to do that 100% today, or they're going to find it against it, because Sheffield Wednesday, as I said, they're a professional football club. They are going to come here and they're going to compete.
Sheffield Wednesday, one of only 5 teams to win at Fratton Park last season. Will that have any bearing on today?
No. I've done a little bit of Googling on them and everything. 3 players start probably in their team today that started in that game. So big changes, different probably morale in the squad as well, different manager. So lots of changes. So that result last season has no effect at all.
Okay, well, we'll shortly have your team news. A couple of changes from last week we'll go into detail of in just a moment. But now let's get the thoughts of a certain Connor Chaplin on his second Pompey debut, and we'll also have a reminder of last week's Derby Day drama.
Overall, I think was a day to be proud of the club, to be proud of the boys. That's probably my overriding feeling, was one that we've come to a club and a team that was in the Premier League last year, and especially away from home, been a better team for large spells of the game. Probably 2 contrasting halves in terms of the way that they went, but I felt like we were a threat throughout the whole game. The emotional control was top throughout the whole week. The gaffer done a brilliant job, I think, in terms of managing that as well. Senior players managed it really well. Still with the bit between our teeth to go and put our foot on the game and make our mark. I really felt like, not just today but the whole week, there's a real togetherness to work hard for each other, to look to your left, look to your right, and feel like you're in it together when it's tough, when it's not tough, to push each other on. And that's the DNA of a successful team and a team that's going to do well and do good things together. So yeah, I'm left with a little bit of excitement as well for what's to come, because I thought it was a positive day for us. It's the modern game. The modern game is that you can't defend with 4, 5, 6 people. You have to defend with 11, and I think that's a responsibility of us to show that endeavour, to show that work rate, to let everyone know that we're in it together. I think that can take you a long, long way. I think the majority of the noise throughout the whole 90 minutes and the build-up as well, and after the game was Pompey. So I thought they were absolutely incredible. Made us feel at home straight away, and yeah, it was with that backing. I think you can do real good things together.
And Murphy gets the ball in the box. Howard Bellis with a poor clearance. Shot comes in from Dazelle off the bar. Pompey inches away. Half cleared. Dazelle again looking for Ogilvie, and Southampton get a foot in as Dazelle's touch will go out of play. Southampton throw. They've survived that situation at the start of the game. Has very much faded away from the home supporters. Shocknessy to Murphy on the left. Fellows back doing some defending, and Murphy going round Fellows, and Murphy with the chance to get a cross in, and he gets a cross in. It's flicked on Bishop's left, but it's shot wide. That's a chance.
There's another chance. Yeah, absolutely.
And Shea Charles goes round him, and this could be a moment of danger for Portsmouth. Fellows infield. Downs to the right hand side. They've got options forward and looking for Fellows. Dazelle back, can't block the cross in the area, and Killip saves. First chance of the game for Southampton.
Yeah, actually, just the other side of the penalty spot towards Bazzuno.
Right, Dazelle to try and get the delivery right towards the head of Bishop. Heads go up, Paul across goal and wide, and that's a chance.
That's a great chance. I think that's a good chance
to take the throw. Well, have they gone to 3 at the back? I'm not sure they have. Chaplin. Now Terry Devlin trying to drive forward. There's lots of space for Devlin to go into, and he wants a shot from a very long way out, and Bazunu saves it very easily.
Yeah, that was
Regan Poole, we're going to see 4 minutes of added time and a few seconds put on the board, and Bishop is trying to come forward for Portsmouth, and he's found Murphy. Could this be the moment for Portsmouth? Murphy towards the penalty area. Murphy fires it across and across the face of everyone, and behind for a goal kick. 94 minutes. It's about the time David Norris is popping up at that end. Corner, in it comes, deep towards the far post. The header is over the bar from Haywood Bellis, and I think that will be that.
So it's 30 minutes until kick-off at Fratton Park, then Pompey taking on Sheffield Wednesday. Let's have a look at your team news. So, 2 changes for Pompey. One expected in Nico Schmidt dropping out for Ben Killip. The other, not as expected. Josh Murphy is not in the squad today. Bianchini starts on the left. Mark, Murphy not being there, we can only suspect maybe feeling a bit leggy from last week perhaps. We don't really know at this moment in time, but we talk about it every week. His impact down the left-hand side, his crosses into the box. They're going to be a big miss today, aren't they?
Yeah, I think so. And to be honest, if you look at it, I think if you were going to rest somebody, you'd probably have him on the bench, Paul. I'm not sure. So for me, that's a contact. It might be a contact somewhere. You know, it was quite heavy for him last week. He came under a bit of contact at times. So he just might be carrying a knock, because I think if you could have him on the bench, maybe to come on for an impact, 15 minutes to try and win the game, if it's not going that way, I think you kind of make that decision. So I'd say that's an injury.
Yeah, and we kind of expected Nico Schmid not to be in the squad today. I mean, with a fractured hand as a goalkeeper, it can be a bit of a problem. Ben Killip makes his 3rd league start for Pompey, showing some promising signs last week.
Yeah, done really well. You know, he'll be pleased, keeping a clean sheet as well. So that's a good sign. You know, it is look. Let's not kid ourselves. Schmidt being in goal for us last season was paramount in us keeping a few clean sheets. You know, but the one thing that I would say now, as a defender, you know, you look at it. I mean, look at the challenge there. You know, he doesn't need to come out that far, does he? You know, I mean, the lad. Look, we've all seen it before. You know, a little push in the back. I've done that plenty of times when I've been playing in midfield and up, you know, on the wing. Kels, I'm sure you've done it as well. You know, you can see the keeper coming out. You can see the full-back in there. Look, there's no way the lad could carry on there. You know, Killip coming in, though. The one thing that I would say was, as I got older and playing more and more games, I used to talk to the defenders, you know, in the warm-up and say, right, you know, young keeper in or first time debut or whatever, let's give him a quiet day. How'd you do that? Stop crosses, stop shots. Don't pass back unless you really need to. Can you turn and play forward? So almost try and give him a day off, you know, so he can settle in. Give him an early touch, you know, and things like that. But, you know, the way we play out, we like to use the keeper to play it through. So are we going to still continue that? I'm sure we are. But the one thing about it is, like, those defenders should be getting together before the game and saying, right, let's give him a quiet afternoon.
Yeah, it's almost like Schmid isn't meant to play against Sheffield Wednesday. He didn't play in any of the fixtures last season. It was Jordan Archer here at home, and it was Ben Killip away from home at the end of last season. But somebody who's not going to be kept out easily is Connor Ogilvie. He was 50-50 on the build-up to today. He played the most amount of minutes out of any Pompey player last season. If he's half fit, he's playing, isn't he? He just wants to start all the time.
He's that type of lad, isn't he? He's a strong, aggressive fullback. That's what he is. No, the knock last week, we could clearly see it because he had quite an egg on his head, so he obviously came up feeling a bit groggy. There he is there. You can see clearly the marks and the knocks, but you know, obviously the medical team would have checked him out all completely this week, and they've declared him fit, and I'm sure Connor's knocking on the door saying, I'm ready, I'm fit, and I'm ready to play. Footballers always want to play. You know, he's taken a knock, but he can get up and he can get on. So it's good to see him out there.
Yeah, and looking a bit further up the pitch, Swift and Dazal as the holding midfielders again today. We've seen that work a lot this season so far, so I guess that was kind of a given coming into it. Segacic on the right, Chaplin as the number 10, we suspect. Bianchini out on the left behind Colby Bishop as captain today, Paul.
Yeah, you know, obviously we talked about it. Murphy will be a miss, no doubt about that, but I still feel that we've got enough, you know, on that pitch to go out and beat a Sheffield Wednesday team that's, you know, languishing at the bottom of the table and having all sorts of problems both on and off the pitch. So, you know, the one thing that you've got to back against is like, don't be complacent. You know, that's my fear, is like we talked about it, you know, last season, George, after the Leeds game and then going into the Plymouth game. You've just mentioned that earlier. I just fear that we're not going to do that. Or no, sorry, I'm fearing that we're going to do that. I'm hoping we're not going to do it.
Okay, I want to get a bit of a debate going here between you two. When playing a struggling side, Sheffield Wednesday very much are that at the moment, is it a good time to give some players a rest after a game like Southampton, where it's quite physical and mentally it takes a lot out of you? Is this a good time to rest people, or do you try and capitalise on being favourites against a struggling side?
Well, listen, the first things first, you've got to go out and win a game of football, but you have got a squad. You have got a squad to use. You're going to need to use them all year, and there's got to be periods of time when you go out and use players. So, yes, wholesale changes, I'd say absolutely no. One or two that might need to step in and actually, have an opportunity to step in, I'd say maybe. But, as I said, if you look at what's going on, was it forced? Is it not? Murphy, Bencini's coming in. We've seen him come in. Now, for him, it's an opportunity to go and stake a place.
Kels,
but he's going to have to do it.
Kels, mate, you should have stopped after your first line.
Here we go.
You've got to win the game.
We've got to win the
game. You've got to win the game. So there's no way you put a weakened team out in any league game. You might put it out in a cup game because you're thinking like we're not going to get to the final. In a league game, every game's a must-win game.
It's a long season though, 46 games. You've got to be tactical, surely.
Every player wants to play in every single game. Trust me. And when they're left out, their pride gets hurt. So I'm telling you now, there's no way. And I was going to stop you straight away, Kels.
Come on, Paul. You're taking it and running with it now. I didn't say wholesale changes. There's been one or two knocks. So
one or two knocks.
Is there a cover
Look,
of?
We've made a couple of changes, haven't we?
We have. Yeah.
We've made a couple. So is that enough, George? 2 changes, or are you talking about wholesale changes like Sheffield Wednesday did against Grimsby?
I'm just talking key players. I'm not talking about overhauling the squad, like 10 changes, that kind of thing. I'm talking about your key men. Is this an opportunity to maybe leave them out when you're expecting, I don't want to say an easier game, but
if
you know what I mean.
If you're 3-0 up at half-time, I'm confident that you can turn around and go, look, we'll take 3 off now.
Okay.
But do the job first. Get the job done, and then you can move on. But making wholesale changes in a league game, I don't think anyone in any league can do that unless you're like Barcelona or Real Madrid in the Spanish league. Every other league, you see it, Germany, England, France, you can't do it.
Okay. All right, we'll take your word on that one, Paul. Thank you. So let's talk about the injuries then. Obviously, we know Nico Schmid's out for up to 12 weeks with a fractured hand. Not great. Conor Ogilvie was assessed on Friday, 50-50, but he is playing today.
Yeah.
Do you expect to see him out there for the full 90 minutes, considering he was kind of at risk of not playing today? But then again, he's not a player that likes to come off.
That's the thing. I think you've got to, if he's declaring himself fit, he's got to feel like he's 100% fit. So if he gets into the game and he's fine and he's absolutely flying with it, it's great, because we said, Paul mentioned it before about clean sheets, getting consistency. That back four will want to stick together as long as it can to go and get those clean sheets on the board. So if he can make 90 minutes, I'm sure he'll want to be out there to actually go and make those 90 minutes count. Yeah,
Jacob Farrell's not in the squad today, but if you're him, are you thinking, when you see Conor Ogilvie's a 50-50, you thinking, right, this could be my chance here? Oh no, he's still playing. What do I have to do to get some minutes here?
Listen, it's always the same when you're sitting in a squad and you're sitting there waiting for an opportunity. You're just dying to get that opportunity. But and you'd want that. You'd want him to feel like that. You'd definitely want him to be like that, because that's the way it has to be. But yeah, I'm sure he probably thought on Thursday, I might have a bit of an opportunity here, but Big Conor's back and he's ready to play.
Do you know what that signals to me? I think in some ways it's good management. It might just signal to Jacob, like, you've got to do more. You've got to do more in training to impress me, to even get on our bench, even though Conor's only 50-50.
Yeah, John Messino said in the week he's quite frustrated at the moment, Jacob Farrell, and that's how he wants him to be. So it can sometimes be a good thing. It can be encouraging, it can spur them on.
Definitely. I feel like, for me, like, you've got to keep players hungry and you've got to keep challenging them, because they can get stale. Look, I had a spell once where I was out of a team. I couldn't get in, the team were winning, and I am working my socks off in training for 2 reasons. 1, to keep myself fit and ready if I'm needed, but 2, to let the manager know that I'm still around. So if you just drift into the background, honestly, even though you're in day out and you're training, it's still a challenge. You've got to be on your mettle every single time, Kels, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Someone who's not in the team today, Thomas Waddingham, awaiting a scan. He pulled a quad in training. Harvey Blair still a few weeks off, we suspect. I feel sorry for Harvey Blair. He actually scored against Sheffield Wednesday last season away from home, getting his first goal. But he's just not getting that lucky break at the moment, is he?
No, there's been no consistency with him. And, it's tough when you go through those little periods as a player, little niggly injuries and time. But, he's just got to keep patient, get back in, get training. As Paul said, try and get some game time somewhere and literally get back in the flow. But it has been difficult. And when you're picking up niggly injuries, there's nothing more annoying as a footballer than that, to just keep picking them up. And listen, I'm sure he'll get a run at some point, but he's just got to keep patient and get on with his job when he's back in training.
And obviously we wish Callum Lang all the best with his recovery as well, still out for a good few weeks yet. But Paul, talk us through Sheffield Wednesday, how the Owls line up today and how we expect them to play against Pompey this afternoon, their setup.
Yeah, I mean, again, as I do look at it, it makes me laugh when teams put down, like, especially when you're at the bottom of the table. You see there, a couple of players that are going to stick out. Look, they're going to be playing 3-5-2. You can see it in the bottom right-hand corner there. I think that will quickly change to a 5-3-2, if I'm being honest. Jan Valery, a player that I know from down the road at Southampton, can play at right wing back, can play at right side centre half of the three.
The player who got the assist for Michael Smith's wonder goal here last season.
Right, well, Jan is an athlete, he's okay. Barry Bannon is the one that sticks out for me in midfield, the captain. There's no Jamal Lowe, which is a good thing in some ways, because that means that he's not going to be on the pitch straight away to try and get something over on his old team. Bailey Cadamarteri, a lad, decent, the ex-Everton player, son there, Danny Cadamarteri. He's decent up front. It's going to be tough. They've got a couple of players that can come in and change things, but when I've looked at it, he hasn't got a lot to pick from, George. So Howarth, the goalkeeper, was the only player that they were allowed to sign properly, and that was on an emergency loan, because he was their original goalkeeper, got injured just before the season. He's the only one player that the Football League allowed them to bring in, and he's played every game. So I think they must have a real young lad on the bench, probably 17, 18 years of age. And, you've got to look at it and think, like, it's a real tough one for them. But, look, the longer this stays 0-0, the more they're gaining confidence. So we need to get an early goal. Once that first goal goes in, you'll see the confidence start to drain. You'll see the energy levels start to drop. And then we can go and hopefully get 2 and 3.
Yeah, Jamal Lowe, Mark, 103 appearances for Pompey, 25 goals. He'll always be a fan favourite here. How's he feeling today coming back to Fratton Park? He would have wanted to have started today, wouldn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. You want to play 90 minutes when you go back to one of your old clubs. And listen, we all know what he can do. Jamal, we saw enough down here when he was playing for us. He's bright, he's lively, he can score goals, he can make goals. So, for us, feel like it's better him on the bench, to be fair. So that's a bit of a plus for us, I think. But I'm sure if he gets on that pitch, he'll want to try and cause us some damage. But the one good thing is, as we said, we've got good clean sheets, we've been solid at the back, so that's a real big plus for us as well. But it's just interesting you're saying they're playing with a 3. We're naturally not playing with a load of width today, Paul, because obviously when Josh Murphy comes out, that would suit us as playing against the 3, but you can kind of see them banking in that midfield area, making it difficult, trying to stop us getting any kind of space at all, try and build on it and get there. So, they'll probably try and frustrate us as much as they can at the beginning of the 90 minutes, but and try and break it up. But for us, we've got to keep consistent. We've got to do what we do, and we've got to go and get that turned around pretty quickly for us, I think.
Yeah, we've spoken a lot so far this season already about Andre Dazau and how integral he's been to Pompey's team so far this season and his development from last season. He's been such a strong midfielder for us. So you've been diving into the numbers. You're going to talk us through how he stacks up with a very key player for Sheffield Wednesday, Barry Bannon.
Yeah, absolutely. And, Andre, the start, he's had a brilliant start. He's had, I think, 3 man of the matches, as you said. So really, really good level for him. But if we look at the stats there, minutes played is very close. Goals scored, they're on the same. Aerials one, I'd expect Andre, Barry Bannon's not the biggest lad. If you know who he is, he's only small, so you can expect that. I think the real key area is total crosses. If you look at Barry's, he's on 27, so he gets forward a lot more and he goes around that way. Accuracy, obviously Dazell's got less, but his accuracy's better. And long balls is an interesting one there. The stack up between 19 and 51, I think, kind of tells you how they've been going around things. As their long balls going in, that kind of tells you they're not playing through any type of area. They're going to go in. They're going to go in, try and turn us and make it hard. So there's a little bit of a stat because Barry Bannon's not that type of player. He likes to play, he likes to keep it tight, but obviously the players around him, he might have to go in longer. So that obviously looks like that's what he's doing at the moment.
Yeah, Sheffield Wednesday are doing a bit of shooting here behind us. I don't know if you saw it on camera, but a ball literally just came up and hit this screen there. So let's hope that accuracy continues for this afternoon.
I think that was Jamal Lowe, actually.
Was it?
Have
you annoyed him? Does he remember you?
I think we worked here together for a while. He had a little look as he did it.
So what do you think of the lineup at home then, Pompey fans? Let us know your thoughts. On WhatsApp is 07457 413 694. You can also scan the QR code on screen and is at Pompey on X. So we're into our second season now up here on the Pompey Plus balcony, but something that's been here far, far longer than us is this stand just over my shoulder, the South Stand. And here to tell us more about this incredible piece of footballing history is Pompey History Society's Mick Comben.
So the story of our South Stand really starts when the whole stadium was built back in 1899, because they first of all built what they called a grandstand on that southern side of the ground. But I'm not sure that it was desperately well built, because in 1916 the roof blew off and destroyed some houses in Carisbrooke and Ruskin Road. Fans came flooding back after the First World War, and by then the whole stadium was starting to get a little tired. So the directors needed to do something, and they decided that they would approach the foremost stadium architect of the time, a guy called Archibald Leach, a Scot, a Rangers fan. By the early 1920s, he was really the foremost stadium builder of its time, for Sunderland, for Rangers, for Celtic, for Crystal Palace, for Fulham. A number of clubs had Leach stands, and he was the person to go to. So the stand building commenced in 1925. It cost about £20,000, but it was a pretty good investment because it gave them such a fantastic stand. It took them about 10 years to pay that money back completely. So a pretty good return on the investment, to see that it's still there in 2025, many, many years later. So they built the stand. It had 4,000 seats, all to give fans a lot of leg room, with 8,000 standing places underneath the stand in the terracing underneath. And off we went. And of course in 1935, Leach then built the North Stand for us as well. So it kind of became a bit of a family affair at Fratton Park. And a lot of things have happened there over the years. Fratton Park hosted the first ever floodlit league game in 1956 when we lost 2-0 to Newcastle, and the floodlights were put on the top of the South Stand for the first time ever. So that's happened. There's been a whole host of repairs and upgrades to the stadium over the years, but the whole stadium, but that stand in particular, of course, is just looking better than it's ever done before. And of course the most recent one has been the building of that fantastic TV gantry up on top of the stand, which strangely enough makes it look like a number of other old style Leach stands with that sort of pyramid thing in the middle of the stand. So well done to Steve Cripps and everybody for getting that built. So it's pretty important to us, is this South Stand, one of a few stands of that exact design left in the country, and one that we hope we'll have for many, many more years.
So Mark, this football club, when you watch things like that, we know it's steeped in history, but it really, I don't know, something you don't necessarily appreciate sometimes until you see it out there in front of you like that.
No, absolutely. And listen, I think when you've been associated with the football club as long as we have, myself and Paul, I every time I walk around here sometimes, especially when it's quiet and you're here, so much memories instilled in this football club, and the way that the club is, and the great things. It's changing. You can see the changes, but it still carries all of the character that it's always ever had. And it just brings that feeling back to memories that you have, things that have happened, and it's just a really special place, George, to be honest.
And Paul, for any new player stepping out onto that hallowed turf, maybe for the first time, how important is it that they learn the history of the club so they can really feel what it's all about?
Yeah, I mean, Portsmouth is such a great club. Every player that comes and signs for this club, the majority, if they're coming like 25-ish onwards, usually stay in and around the area. It's amazing, and my dad used to say, like, sometimes they're coming for their retirement to have it on the south coast, but it's such a great club. It just draws you in. I came here with my mum as the very first time. She worked in the Fratton tea bar, and I used to stand between the Fratton end and the south stand. That was my little place, and then when the referee blew the half-time whistle, I used to run round to get back into the tea hut. So it's brilliant. And that south stand, one thing that I always used to think was, that was where the posh people sat, because it was always a little bit more expensive than the north stand. And my dad always used to stand on the north terrace, so I used to think that was the posh side. So when we become players, used to get tickets in the south stand. That was the first time I ever sat in it, George.
There we go. And now we're just there. You get to look at it behind me every day.
I know, yeah.
Well, brilliant. We'll get more from you two in just a moment, but we'll get the thoughts of the gaffer now, head coach John Messino. We caught up with him this week and started off by asking how the week has been for the team.
Yeah, we've had to do a pretty quick turnaround in terms of recovery. We've had a good couple of days. We were back in on Monday. Monday, Tuesday, very much days where we were assessing the game, making sure that we put everything to bed, made all the necessary improvements we needed to make, and just got a bit of like you say, recovery back into everybody's legs. So I had a good training day today, and hopefully ready to go at the weekend.
Any other reflections you can take from that one?
Nothing that wasn't said after the game, to be honest. Watching the game back, had very, very similar feelings. Really happy with the first half. I'm happy with the whole game, to be honest, but I think we sunk in a little bit in the second half and struggled to keep a bit of possession. So I think if we can be better at that going forward, we'll give ourselves a little less to do defensively, and hopefully we can open sides up as well. But I thought we created enough opportunities and enough chances, and on another day we nicked the win.
Looking ahead to this weekend, what are you expecting from Sheffield Wednesday?
Well, I think they're a really dangerous side, and we've looked at to all of their league games and the League Cup games as well. They beat Leeds in the League Cup, really, really excellent performance, a really good comeback against Wrexham, and then in the league games I just think they've been a little bit unlucky, the rubber the green, early goals going against them, and things haven't quite gone as well as I'm sure Sheffield Wednesday would have liked. So a really dangerous team. They're still littered full of championship players. They've got some real talent in the side, so we've got to be right at the top of our game to make sure we deal with that.
What do you want to see from your side this weekend?
Hunger and energy. We want to come back here and really have really make it an exciting game and get a bit of attacking football into the boys. And I think all of the things that have made us a decent side, a half decent side at the start of the season, and have given us that platform to actually go and kick on. And ultimately, if we put all those things together and we show that real endeavour, then it'll be a good game.
So just over 5 minutes until kick-off here at Fratton Park. The volume is really picking up now. Mark, Sheffield Wednesday have conceded the most amount of goals this season. Pompey have conceded the least amount of goals, or equal least. If Wednesday can't find a way to break Pompey down today and get through that defence, is that game over for them?
Yeah, I think so. I think if we can keep it like that and we do things right at the back, I think it's going to be very, very difficult for Sheffield Wednesday. But I honestly believe that Connor Chaplin, he's at home, he's come back. I'd love to see him get a couple today, if I'm honest. I'm a bit biased, George, but I'd like to see him get a couple today.
Pompey haven't beaten Sheffield Wednesday since 2002. You know what I'm going to ask, and I kind of know what you're going to say. Paul, does that have any effect on today?
No. I just think, look, all joking aside, I'm hoping that Pompey are far too strong for Sheffield Wednesday today. You're going to ask us for a score prediction. I would say it's going to be at least 2-0 to Portsmouth. So that's where I'm going with it, with Chaplin getting both.
Oh, right, okay. So Pompey coming into this one, as we've established, favourites. Last week you could say that wasn't the case, going away to St Mary, the former Premier League side, taking all the rivalry out of it. How much of a difference does that have in terms of how you prepare for the game and build up mentality-wise?
I think it's all about creating standards, creating levels of performance, and I think that's what Pompey have to do today. You know, we've seen it home and away. We're starting to get some consistency, but it's all about that level of performance. And today, they've got to be extremely professional in what they do. They've got to go and deliver that standard.
And last week, Pompey dominated that first half. For that first 15 minutes or so in particular, we came out of the traps very quickly. Are we going to have a similar approach on that front today?
I do hope so. I really, look, every time we're at home, the crowd are right behind you. We've got to keep that momentum going. The longer, I always remember Wickham coming here and Gareth Ainsworth talking to me saying, like, we try to kill the atmosphere, slow it all down. What we want is momentum, and just steamroller them. First 15 minutes. Alan Boy used to say to us, Kels, remember, you could win the game in the first 20 minutes. You could be 2 or 3-0 up and the game's gone. It's absolutely won. So you've got to go for it. And here at Fratton Park, it's paramount that you try and do that.
Yeah, and this atmosphere today as well, it's electric. Something that isn't quite happening at Hillsborough for Sheffield Wednesday this season. We know they're not packing out the stadium week in, week out as a form of protest. So here is an atmosphere that their players maybe have forgotten about over the past few weeks or so.
Maybe, but travelling fans are always different anyway, George. They spend their money, they go up and down the country, and they'll be in full voice this afternoon for their team. Don't worry about that.
Excellent. Well, I'll come back to you for your predictions again in just a moment. You're going to have to shout them at me though, it's getting really loud here. We're going to get the thoughts of those watching at home. Joe, watching live from Thailand. Come on the Blues. David and family, play up Pompey, watching from Gran Canaria. Ziggy's been in touch, sorry to Paul, but I have to agree with Mark in the rotating players debate. 1-0 to Mark now, an early lead. Sarah, feeling a Bianchini goal, that would be nice indeed. He starts on the left today in for Josh Murphy. So Mark, if I could get your score prediction.
I'll say
Pompey 3-1 and Huds.
2-0.
2-0, Chaplin both.
Chaplin both.
Excellent.
I might even let Colby have one and Chaplin one, but 2-0.
All right, be fair. Spread it about. Excellent stuff. Thank you again, guys. That's it from us for now then. A quick reminder, if you're watching us on social media, your coverage ends here. So if you want to watch or listen to the game with us this afternoon, coverage availability depends on your region, of course. Get yourself over to Pompey Plus and sign up for a match pass. And myself, Mark Kelly and Paul Hardiman will return at half-time. And up next is Pompey taking on the Owls at Fratton Park.